Hi, I'm Tim from the Marathon Mates. On previous episodes, Tara has shared some of her troubles that she's experienced with her heart and how it has led to her recently undergoing surgery in order to have a pacemaker fitted. Tonight, Tara is going to share her running with heart story and talk about how she first became aware of her heart symptoms and the impacts it has had on her running. You'll hear her inspirational tale as how she's been able to get to the marathon majors and beyond, as well as the issues that continue to plague her going forward. In addition, we'll also talk about the wonderful running community that is called the Cardiac Athletes. We've been there and done that when it comes to running, and we have the experience and the knowledge as we are the only podcast with 4 6-star world major marathon medalists as co-hosts. This is the Flying Runner podcast. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying Runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hi everyone and welcome back to the Flying Runner. I'm Tim from the Marathon Mates and this is episode number 109. Tonight we're going to hear from Tara as she shares more about her journey that she has taken when it comes to her heart. We'll hear about how she first discovered that she had heart symptoms, as well as understand the limitations it's placed on her when it comes to running and everyday life. In addition, Tara will also introduce us to a super positive running community called the Cardiac Athletes, a group of runners from all around the world who are running with various cardiac concerns. But before we talk about what's in our heads, let me introduce you to my marathon mates, my co-hosts tonight, Lucia, Tony, and of course my better half, my sweetheart, Tara.
Oh.
Hi guys, it's good to see you all again. How's your week been? And most importantly, Tara and Tony, you did some racing on the weekend. Tell us about the Sunshine Coast and the Townsville half marathons that you both competed in. Who wants to go first?
Tara can go first.
Awesome, thank you. So this weekend, Tim and I did the Sunshine Coast half marathon. Sunny Coast is always one of our favourite runs to do. It was where we did our very first marathon. So that atmosphere and that race is one of our special ones, I guess you could say. It was very cold this year. Like normally it is hot as hot. This year it was freezing cold, and I think we did it in about 2 hours 33. There was lots of walking, lots of talking, lots of stopping for photos with friends, and just having fun. So yeah, just not pushing anything too hard. With just a training run for Sydney, really. And we did park run on Saturday morning at Golden Beach Park Run. Beautiful course along the beach at the Sunshine Coast. And just an up and back twice. So it's just a 2-loop course. Really, really friendly volunteers, friendly atmosphere, beautiful course. Yeah.
And Townsville was awesome. It was, I really loved the course at Townsville. For those people that know Townsville and have been there, there's a 10K loop, which is along the Strand, and you start at Jazeen Barracks, you run along the Strand, and of course you've got the sun rising. The half marathon kicked off at 5 minutes to 6, and the full marathon kicked off at 4:45. So the full marathon was 3 loops of the 10K course, and then out to Cape Paloranda and back. The half marathon was just 1 loop of the 10K course and then out to Cape Paloranda and back. But course was amazing. I really enjoyed it. It was just such a nice way to start the day, running along the Strand, watching the sun come up over Magnetic Island out there in the bay and the water. It was just awesome. Yeah, it was really friendly vibe. There was about 3,000 runners overall at Townsville over there, all their courses, over all their distances, 5, 10, half, a marathon. Just a real friendly vibe. There was no aggro. There was no like people, how there's normally people zigzagging through crowds. None of that. I think North Queensland's just got that great attitude of, yeah, we'll get there. It was just a really nice day on the course. We had family members out there cheering us on the course, which was nice to see. They had a band. They had a live band at the Athlete Village, which was nice. You go and pick your bib up on the Saturday down at Jazeen Barracks, and there's a band rocking away, and that same band was rocking away at the finish line on Sunday. There was it was just great. The race itself, I ran 2:47. Sharon went a little bit over 3, I think, and so did Tim. I went the first 10K with my son Tim. We were just jeffing on 1-minute intervals. And I had a bit of a plan that I wanted to negative split. I've never negative splitted a race, so I purposely went out and jeffed at the beginning as opposed to normally I jeff towards the back of the race, and that enabled me to actually negative split. So I'm pretty happy with that. I know how it feels now, and really excited. And the other interesting thing for me was that I actually had a really bad upset tummy. So just woke up just not feeling great. First drink station was about 2.5K in. I tried some electrolytes. No, thank you. It just made my gut feel really horrible. So I didn't take any nutrition in over that half marathon. Small sips of water along the journey. And that was another first for me. I've never really felt like that. And then when I caught up with some of my family on the way back some of Sharon's family, my brother-in-law, he had some Coke there for it. So that was really the first thing of any sort of, let's call it, substance that I took in over the course. And it was just amazing. But yeah, first time upset stomach and ran with it. So it didn't feel too bad. But yeah, lovely. But we'll probably go back. It might be a regular on our running calendar.
Knowing that part of Townsville, Tony, that's a pretty flat course too, I would imagine, along the Strand.
Very
and then
flat.
out to the yeah,
very
so
flat. The only hills were around Jazeen Barracks as you come through from the Strand out to the road out to Cape Paloranda, out through Rose Bay area. And that, even the crowd support was pretty good. There was a party house just as you're coming on to Cape Paloranda Road, or whatever it's called, Rose Bay Road or something. And they were on the Terps at about 8 o'clock in the morning when we first ran past them. They're all in fancy dress. There's 2 people dressed up in, the cones, the roadside cones, and they were still going strong when we came back. And as Sharon and Tim have come through, they're doing Don't Rock the Boat, and they're all out in the middle of the street pretending that they're on a boat. And it was just a lot of fun. It was just, the vibe was amazing. So well done, Townsville. I've never seen a live band. And just the friendliness of the course and the flatness of the course. I reckon there's a good quick time there. So
excellent. And Lucia, welcome to the show. How has your week been?
Well, it's been an eventful week. I did 0 training. I did 1 strength class. Wasn't able to get any running in because the weather in Sydney's just been atrocious, but the rain's been really heavy. And it's sprinkling, I don't mind, but it was bucketing down and I don't want to get sick. So yes, I'm made of paper, but I was not going to get sick. So it was a very easy week for me. So needless to say, I need to ramp it up because I want to get 1 run in before Sydney with a 3 in front of it, just mentally for me. But let's face it, my Sydney race is going to be very different to everybody else's. Most of it's going to be a nice leisurely stroll.
Yeah. and just get all that weather out of the system before we arrive in 26 days or whatever it is. So,
Exactly.
that'd be handy.
It is just sneaking up on us, isn't it? This Sydney Marathon. And, you know, when you set out your calendar for the year, you think, yeah, I've got a bit of time between Gold Coast and Sydney. And then all of a sudden, little things happen and the weather happens. And now Lucia's in a position where she wants to get one run in between now and Sydney. What's that, 3 weeks?
Minor details.
Yeah, just that's a big, hairy, audacious goal there.
I've done it before. I wouldn't recommend it
Yeah.
for those who aren't who don't train regularly, but it's not the first time I've done something as crazy as this. But I'll adapt my run. I'll take it very nice and easy. I'm not going out for a time. And the other exciting thing is in Sydney, they've started putting up the banners in the streets for the Sydney Marathon and the Clearway sign. So it's getting real.
It is. And I can't fault the Sydney Marathon organisers. I think I'm getting an email every day now from them telling me about something. It's almost an over communication, but at least they're communicating and they're telling people what to do and what to expect and what's happening. But lots of communications at the moment. So it's all really good. Now, speaking of communications, we've had some great feedback this week. We had Bill send us an email during the week or send us a message this week and just commenting on last week's episode where we gave the results of the Australian Outback Marathon. And he mentioned that both the men's and the women's course records at the Australian Outback Marathon were beaten this year. And that Grace Tame, who took out the women's marathon, Bill believes that she broke the course record by about 5 minutes. So on that course, 5 minutes is huge, especially given it's sand. And a shout out also for Tara and myself. We were running yesterday at the Sunny Coast Half Marathon and we're just talking away. And then all of a sudden this lady comes up to us and says, you wouldn't by any chance be Tim and Tara Ellis by any chance? And we said, yes. And she goes, you're on the Flying Runner? Yes. So shout out to Challen. Hopefully you had a really good run yesterday and that you had a really good time and you got to the finish line and you got there without any issues or concerns. So big shout out for you as well.
And we'll see her in Sydney as well.
Yes, she's lined up to do Sydney. Alrighty, guys. Now it's that time of the week where we talk. Oh, sorry, just one thing while we're talking about Challen as well. We said, oh, we're a bit of a rough podcast. We don't do a lot of production work in the background. What you hear is what you get. And she goes, no, I love that rawness of the show. I like the fact that it's pretty raw and not professional. So there you go. We keep it raw, I guess. keep the mistakes in there. But anyway, guys, now it's that time of the week where we talk about the news. Tony, what's been happening around the world this week?
Yes, it's my turn to deliver the news. And of course, Tim has given me all the names. So hopefully I did a little bit of work prior. So hopefully I get the names right. So there's been some big announcements for the Berlin Marathon. We've got Sebastian Salway, who is one of the leading lights at the moment in men's marathoning, and Rosemary Wenjaru from are among the athletes, and they've been named in the elite field. Now, Salway, as we know, had a debut marathon in Valencia last year, and then backed it up in London, claiming 2:02.27, I think, was the winning time in London this year. So he just, I think he broke the back of him at about the 25-kilometre mark, if I remember rightly, about London. So really looking forward to Sebastian Salway at Berlin. His challenges, let's face it, we hope that there's challenges and we hope that there is a decent pack. Makisa Mengeza of Ethiopia, and he was the winner last year in Berlin. And Gabriel Gay from Tanzania, he ran a 2:03 3 years ago in Valencia. So the men's field looks pretty good. We then look at the ladies, and Wanjaru won Tokyo in 2023 and clocked a PB of 2:16 when she finished second last year in Tokyo. She now returns to Berlin after running second there in 2022. So she's going to be joined in that elite pack at the front by Azamira from Ethiopia. I knew there'd be names I forgot to brief myself on. Who's got a best time of 2:17.58, and Meswet Faiku from Ethiopia with the best time of 2:18. So really looking forward to Berlin. We've got some crack fields happening in the elites as we come through the last four majors of the year. So really excited. We know Berlin's quick, so it's going to be really interesting. I think the important thing for Salway is that he's got people there at about the 35K mark and continue to push him and drive him towards the finish line. So what are your thoughts? We'll start with Tim. He's always got thoughts on how the men are running out there. So what are your thoughts, mate?
Salway is one of the hot runners at the moment around the world. He's followed a very close strategy, I guess, as Kelvin Kipton did, winning his first marathon in Valencia and then winning it again as a major in London. I think he's going to go really quick. I think if he ran 2:02 in London, he's got great potential to go 2:01, low 2:01s potentially in Berlin on that flatter course. So I can't wait to see how he goes. But he's going to need, as you say, somebody to be there pushing him all the way. I think in London, you're right. He got to Canary Wharf. There was a drink station there at about 25 Ks. All the runners took a drink, and he all of a sudden put a surge in at that point, missed the drink station, and just kept going forward.
Yeah.
But if he had somebody push him, he could have probably gone faster as well. So I'm looking forward to this one in London. I reckon it'll be a great opportunity for him to really cement himself in the elite space in the world of marathon running.
Yeah, and it is Berlin, not London. But yes, I'm looking forward to it too, Tim. So
did I say London?
I think you did. I might be wrong.
No.
Wrong,
you did.
Yeah, if I'm wrong, I'll edit it out. And if I'm right, I'll leave it in. So that's the way it works, right? It's very rare that you would actually say this, but I'm going to say the Sydney field tops the Berlin field. I'm just saying it. I'm putting it out there in terms of eyeballs, in terms of appeal, in terms of interest. I think Sydney, and I'm excited for Sydney. I'm excited for Berlin, but it's very, very rare that you would see the Sydney field be, a much greater attraction than Berlin. Notwithstanding, Salway's going to do a great thing.
Yeah. The other thing is you got Chicago straight after Berlin, and Chicago seems to be the one people are setting world records at. So, it's the one where Kelvin Kipton set the world record at 2 or 3 years ago. Whether we believe it or not, the current world record by Ruth Chetengedich, the alleged doper, is set in Chicago as well. So maybe Chicago is now starting to get the attention a little bit more than Berlin. I don't know.
Let's see how it goes. Now, speaking of world records, it was ratified this week. Tigista Sefa set the world record in London for the fastest all-women's field in the marathon distance. She clocked a time of 2:15.50 to improve the previous world record by about 16 seconds. The time and the world record have now been ratified by World Athletics and is now officially a world record. So she said, when I crossed the finish line after this year's London event, I felt extreme happiness. And, it's really joyful when you see the likes of Tigista Sefa and Safan Hassan and the way that they express themselves after marathons. They're quite humble. They're vulnerable in their approach. And I think that's why so many people absolutely love them. So this was Sefa's third fastest marathon of her career. So when you think about that, that's pretty amazing. She'd previously set the world record in the combined men's and women's race in Berlin in 2023. Of course, she had to run that to beat us because we ran the same race in 2023, and that time was 2:11:53. As Tim mentioned before, the current world record sits currently with Ruth Chepngetich, who broke it. And there are so many questions, and whether we're going to get those questions answered or not, or whether that world record stays ratified. But the interesting thing for me, Tim, it's taken a while to have London ratified, yet it seemed to be so quick to ratify it for Chepngetich's effort in Chicago.
Yeah, it's strange, and that's why it shocked me when I read the news this week that they've only just ratified it this week. Because I thought it, given how quick Ruth Chepngetich got hers and Kelvin Kipton got his ratified, I thought that that one would have already been done, but obviously not.
Yeah,
so
and if you're they took a while with Tigges de Sefer at Berlin, didn't they? So it just seems to be whether you get them on a good day or not, whether it's a long process to ratify or whether it's a short process. But yeah, that's the news. Back to you, Tim.
Thanks, Tony. Now it's that time of the week where Tara's going to do a lot more talking, so we get to hear from her a little bit more, and we're going to hear about.
That is such a rare thing, isn't it? Tara doing a lot of talking.
Very, very rare.
So I'm going to ask the first question, Tara, and then we'll just take our turn and ask you lots of questions like you're a special guest, okay? But you're not that special. So I'm going to ask the first question.
I'm feeling all the love here.
I say that when I'm 100 kilometers away from you at the moment. So. All right. So the first question, how long ago did you know that you had some sort of issue or concern that was affecting your running? And how long after that did it take to get a diagnosis that it was your heart that was causing those issues?
Yeah. So you actually noticed at the end of 2019, start of 2020, when we were training for Tokyo Marathon together, and we hadn't actually run together since the Dopey Challenge, which was in the previous January. And then when you started running with me, you're like, oh, your breathing's a bit different. You're weird, And I was actually starting to just want to go to sleep at around about 15 Ks. I'd see this nice patch of grass and go, I could just curl up there and go to sleep. You insisted that I went to the doctor and got checked, I've got a very good GP. She sent me off to the Prince Charles Hospital here in Brisbane, and that's a leading cardiologist, the cardiology hospital. She suspected that it was a heart concern. She'd heard a murmur, and they did a whole range of tests and found that I had a bicuspid aortic valve. So then from there, probably around about 8 months, primarily I think because of COVID hitting at that time and getting into hospitals and stuff was quite hard. But it took me about probably 8 months of testing and being able to work out what was going on there. Yeah.
So, sorry, just for our listeners, a bicuspid aortic valve. What does that mean? Sounds fancy.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So a bicuspid aortic valve is your aortic valve is normally a tri-leaflet valve in your heart. So it actually has 3 parts of that aorta that open and close when your heart pumps blood through it. Mine only has 2 parts instead of 3. So my heart is actually working a little bit harder than everyone else's. It is a congenital heart defect. I didn't know I had it. Sometimes it gets picked up really early and sometimes it never gets picked up. It depends on if it starts showing symptoms. So mine was picked up because I was becoming symptomatic because of it.
Mm. Now, you've been diagnosed with a couple of different things that are wrong with the old ticker of yours, Tara. And I try and keep things simple for me, but that doesn't necessarily suit the conversation that we're having because it's quite serious. But you've been diagnosed with 2 issues, and there's probably, I don't know, that's a journey that you've been on that I'm aware of. But can you explain exactly how we've gone from what you were just talking about to having a pacemaker, and what those cause, what are those issues, and how they affect you?
Yeah, so look, my pacemaker isn't related to the bicuspid aortic valve. So the bicuspid aortic valve I call my plumbing issue. So it's your blood flowing through your heart. So I see a plumbing cardiologist, is what I like to call it for that one. At the start of last year, I had started passing out or having syncope episodes, is the medical term for it. And I just thought it was dehydration or fatigue. I mentioned it to my, and I'd had probably 5 or 6 of these episodes, some of them while running, some of them while just at home or whatever. And I mentioned it to my cardiologist when I went for my annual checkup, which I do anyway. He immediately stopped all my tests and said, don't do anything else, and sent me to an electrical cardiologist. So your heart has got the electrical side of things and your plumbing side of things. So I now have an electrical problem as well. And what that is I've developed a complete heart block. So my AV node, which is what heartbeat starts in your SA node and then goes through to the AV node. And my AV node has got a blockage, and it just stops the heartbeat going from the top ventricle to the bottom ventricle of my heart. And because of that, what happens is my heart actually stops for 15 to 20 seconds at a time. I wasn't aware of that problem, but my cardiologist, my plumbing cardiologist, recognized that that was an electrical problem, sent me to my EP, or the electrical cardiologist, and he took me in and put me into hospital for 4 days of very extensive testing. I had what's called an EP study done, and that's an electrical mapping of my heart. So they go through a catheter through the groin, they put me out completely, and go into what's called the cath lab. And with that, it was found that I had that electrical problem. So he did an ablation at the time. So he's burnt that part of my heart that hopefully was going to stop that problem and keep the electrical signals going through. He also put in a loop recorder at the time. So it's a cardiac monitor, pretty much a Holter monitor, and it was implanted into my chest, close to my heart. So that stayed in there permanently. While I was having that monitoring happening, it was actually recorded that that's how we knew that my heart was stopping for long periods of time, because that monitor that he put in goes back to a base station that he sees at all times. So yeah, so the ablation worked for probably 3 months, and then it just didn't work anymore, and he said that a pacemaker would be the best option for me.
Wow. Plumbing, yep. Electrical.
Yeah, so it's sometimes people do get the plumbing and the electrical. Not as common, but yeah, I've just been very lucky to have a 3rd-degree heart block and my valve problem.
Wow.
And on top of that, that surgery that Tara was just talking about occurred 3 weeks before we flew out last year to Chicago, and then to run Chicago Marathon, Niagara Falls, and New York Marathon. So it was touch and go, and even running Chicago, we weren't sure, were we, whether or not you would even be able to get through it.
No, it was a bit of I was very, very grateful to be able to finish Chicago and feel so good at the end of it. And we actually, Tim and I both thought, oh, yep, cool, the ablations worked, we're doing well. It just wasn't to last, unfortunately. But look, it got me through 2 marathons and a half marathon and all the running that I did in the US. So I was happy.
So kind of just following on from that, Tara, prior to you guys leaving for that trip last year, did you have to have any medical clearances or tests to give you the okay to run after that first operation?
So after that first operation, he was very confident that I was good. They knew that I was a runner. So when it first happened, there was the option of having that pacemaker put in at the time. I am against having surgery unless it's necessary. So I asked him what the options were. So we tried the ablation. He gave me the clearance then and there before I got discharged from hospital. Start slow again and you'll be fine. I didn't do any training at all before Chicago. From the time that I had the surgery to the time I went to Chicago, I just let my body heal from the ablation. But no, I didn't need any medical clearance for that one. However, going forward from there, since the pacemaker and stuff like that, yes, I have had to have medical clearance before I was allowed to run again. I had to have checks. My pacemaker also has a base station, and it downloads every single thing that my heart does back to the cardiologist, my electrical cardiologist, and he sees it every day. So they'll ring me if they've got a concern with anything, or if they feel that there's a problem. They let me know straight away, which is good. Yeah, but no, I just base it on what they tell me to do. They aren't used to seeing people that are quite as fit and healthy and as active as I am. So I'm in a bit of a minority group for them. So it makes it a little bit hard for them to give the clearance. Go, oh, yes, you can go for a run, but they're probably used to people that are maybe like a park run distance, not marathon distance. So a lot of what I do is based on their clearance, but also on my own personal feel and judgment.
Interesting.
Hey Tara, how does your heart conditions with an S affect your daily life? And more importantly, your running, training, and racing, because I know you're not always up for it because you're fatigued or tired. But yeah, how does it affect you day to day and in your training?
Yeah, I guess I have a very positive outlook on my life, and I try not to let things get me down. There is a lot of concerns with it. Obviously, after I had the pacemaker fitted, I wasn't allowed to drive for 2 weeks. So one of the other things that I failed to mention is that when my cardiologist first said stop everything and sent me to the electrical one, he actually banned me from driving for 6 months. So that ban for driving was very, very hard for me mentally, trying to get back and forth to work and everything like that. I understand his reasoning behind it, because if I had one of those syncope episodes when driving, not am I only putting myself at risk, I'm putting other people at risk, and I wouldn't have wanted that anyway. So after my pacemaker, I had to stop driving for 2 weeks. Wasn't allowed to lift my arms up above my head for 4 weeks because I have leads that are in my heart, and if those heart leads don't embed properly, they can actually rip out and cause major bleeding in the heart. So obviously that was careful. I do get very, very breathless. I'm a little bit better now that I've got the pacemaker. However, because I've still got the valve problem, that is still not resolved, obviously. I struggle to get up and down hills, struggle to get up and down stairs, vacuuming, washing, things like that. Even sometimes getting in and out of the shower is enough to cause me to be out of breath and quite tired. I do sleep at least once a day during the middle of the day, and that's usually for around about 2 hours, and that's even if I've slept for 8 to 10 hours at night. Wow. I do have a lot of fatigue, but I guess, again, I try to look at things on a positive note. It could always be a lot worse. So I try to portray that really happy side of me, because if I do that, then I feel that way as well myself. So,
sure.
Yeah, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about some of that day-to-day stuff. So, but I'm interested, when you're out running, what are some of the things that you are feeling that tells you whether you should slow down or whether you should even stop? What are some of those symptoms that you may see or feel while you're running?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, Tony, because each day is different for me, unfortunately. So I can't actually pick it up and say this is what causes an issue. But I normally am very short of breath. So I used to be able to run and talk quite happily to anybody who was beside me. And I could do that at a 5-minute 30 pace, and I could talk for a whole marathon if you wanted me to at that pace. My pace has slowed drastically. So if I am running at full speed now, it's usually around about the 7 to 7:15 pace. I will not talk to anybody, and I will sound like a steam engine behind you trying to breathe. If I am walking, if I'm talking, I have to walk. I cannot run. It doesn't matter what speed I'm doing anymore. My main symptom, I guess, is I get very, very heavy legs. And again, once I get to that fatigued point, I actually just feel like I want to curl up and go to sleep. Like my body just wants to shut down. I'm really tired. I get very, very dizzy. Once I stop running, I actually feel like I'm going to collapse. So the pacemaker is stopping that from happening now, whereas previously, before the pacemaker, I would just collapse. But yeah, I still get extreme dizziness, tiredness, shortness of breath, and running. There's a lot of walking involved now compared to the running, and that's okay. I just look at it and think I'd rather still be doing what I love to do, even if I'm a 6 to 6:15 hour marathoner rather than a 4-hour 30 marathoner. It does take it out of me, though. I do take probably 2 or 3 days to recover from that afterwards, and I will sleep probably 4 hours a day rather than the 2 hours a day after a long run. Yeah.
Now, Tara, I'd like to think I know you pretty well by now over the many trips we've been on, the adventures we've shared. And what I'm about to say next, I mean it in the most lighthearted way, but I kind of wish you couldn't talk and run when we did Goldie together. That made my life so much easier. But jokes, like everyone listening, we Tara and I and the rest of the crew, we've got great banter. So I don't mean any disrespect when I say that. But coming back to my question, I can tell when things aren't right with you sometimes at the start of a race. How do you overcome that mentally to get yourself ready to race?
Yeah, look, no offense at all taken there, Lucia. I understand completely. I do like to talk. I guess with that, Tim is probably the best person to judge that. I go quiet even before I start racing, and I am a normally very chatty person. So I don't actually even talk before a race. So Tim knows if I'm not in that body shape. My head is always in the race space, always. Like I love to run, as everyone knows. Sorry. Yesterday morning, I wasn't even sure I was even going to start my race. I had a pretty bad week of just feeling average. So we ran Golden Beach Park Run on the Saturday. Ran that in about 33.5 or 32.5, can't remember. But because I didn't stop in that 5Ks and I had just run it, I didn't talk, but I was very, very fatigued after that and probably pushed myself a bit hard before a race. Race day morning yesterday, I wasn't sure I was even going to start. I had friends on course that were talking to me, and I sort of don't really, I feel very rude now, if that's the nicest way to put it. But mentally, I just put myself into that headspace of like, I want to finish. I want that medal. And it's not always a good thing sometimes because I push myself probably harder than I need to. But I am very tenacious in that space where I will just keep going. But I'm very lucky I've got Tim by my side 95% of the time with racing. So he keeps me motivated as well. Yeah, it is hard. I won't lie. It's not always easy. I won't lie to anybody and say, I get out of bed every day and go, I want to run. I love running, but there's some days where I just would rather go to sleep and not do anything at all. Yeah. Hope that answered the question. Not really.
Thank you.
She goes very quiet. Tara does at the start lines when she's not sure. I can tell just looking at her through her eyes. If she's not right, she'll try and bluff it with everyone and talk to them. But I can tell she's not quite right. She's not with it. I can even just tell in the signs of her body and her body language as well. But yeah, she's tenacious. All right, she still every time fronts up to the start line and gives it a go. And even yesterday, still ran a bloody good time at Sunny Coast in 2 hours 33. So. She still struggles, but right, Tara, when we're running, I can tell you if you're breathing too heavy or if you're going, when you go too quiet on the run and you're not talking at all, I know that it's time to start to walk and slow things down for you just to get everything reset a little bit. But yeah, it's tough for you out there, I know, at times. Now, there's this worldwide group called the Cardiac Athletes. They're a group of people who are, like you, Tara, have been affected by, bad genes and bad lifestyle choices that have affected their hearts. Can you tell us a little bit about the Cardiac Athletes?
Yeah, so the Cardiac Athletes, they are an amazing group of people. I originally found them after I got diagnosed with my bicuspid aortic valve. And that was more because I was like, my plumbing cardiologist had said to me, you're probably slowing down because of your age, menopause, all those things that every single female wants to hear. And I'm like, no, there's more to it than this, because I didn't fit his category of an octogenarian on their 5th triple bypass and overweight and sitting at home, and the most amount of work that they do is going from the couch to the fridge and back again. He sort of didn't know how to deal with me. So I joined the Cardiac Athletes group. Now, they are actually a Facebook group, and the founder of it is a pacemaker technician in Melbourne, and he's a wonderful wealth of knowledge. It's a worldwide group. However, every single person in our group is an athlete of some sort. So some of them are ultra marathoners, some of them are cyclists, some swimmers, triathlon, whatever. But we're all there to support each other through our heart journey together. And I have made some amazing friends through the Cardiac Athletes group. We've got a Brisbane-based group, and we've also got ones that are from Melbourne and stuff like that I catch up with frequently. That group, if anyone has cardiac issues, highly recommend joining the Facebook group, Cardiac Athletes. Very, very good support. And I can't talk highly enough of them. You just post something on their page and they've got the answer for you straight away before your cardiologist does. And because they are sports-minded and medical professionals themselves, or some of them are, they've got that knowledge as well of what is going on with you, and they can give you another outlook and things to ask your cardiologist that you wouldn't probably think to ask them as well.
And Tara, didn't you start GC Marrow with one of them? Was it Lisa?
Yeah, so Lisa's one of my amazing friends. She's actually got a pacemaker and a defibrillator in as well. So she lives at Sandgate, so where we train. So I catch up with Lisa quite frequently. We just ran Sunny Coast as well. She was there. Beautiful, beautiful lady. She actually got me through before I had my pacemaker put in. I talked to her a lot about what the outcome was going to be, what the change of my life was going to be, and she was telling me about making sure that I had the right pacemaker for being an athlete as well, because it is different types of pacemakers. They're not all built the same and they all do different things. So she was able to point me in the right direction of where to ask my, what to ask my cardiologist as well. So yeah, good memory there, Lucia.
And you all run in Cardiac Athlete singlets, which are red and white with a Runr on them. And what I like about them most is they've got all the cut marks for all the various heart operations that you have on their shirts. So it'll show where the cut line goes for the pacemakers. It shows where the loop recorder goes. It shows the main open heart type stuff as well on there. It's a pretty cool shirt or singlet that they're running.
Tara, I've got 2 questions, and the first one's probably a personal question. Have you ever, and then I'll lead on to the second official question from the run sheet. But I take my hat off to you. I think you're amazing for continuing to do what you're doing. But was there ever a time that you thought you might have to give up this running caper for your own health? And then with that in mind, what advice would you then give to others who are facing the same sort of challenges that you face from a health perspective, or have heart issues in their family and who still love to run?
Yeah, I guess I try not to think of the negative aspects of anything that goes on. So I just take things day by day with my heart. I do know that eventually I will have to give up running. I still need to have open heart surgery to replace my bicuspid aortic valve. So that can happen. How long is a piece of string, really? It could happen by the end of this year, and it could happen in 10 years' time. It just depends on how well that valve is holding out. So at the moment, we're trying to preserve that valve. Running is actually good for it because it's like any other muscle that if you don't use it, you're going to lose it, or it's going to lose its, functionality. So marathon running is probably not on the top of my cardiologist list for me to be exercising with. However, he does know that I'm very determined. I do feel, and it's definitely not a personal question, I do feel down sometimes knowing that the running journey is probably going to come to an end when I do need that heart surgery, open heart surgery. I may be able to come back into it again, depending on how quickly I can recover. And there's many factors that go into that, but I will need to have what they call a natural valve. You can have a mechanical valve or a natural valve put in. There's many other options, but for me, I've got 2, and the mechanical valve isn't really an option. So the mechanical valve is actually a man-made valve that gets put in for you, but you need to be put onto long-term or lifetime blood thinners for that. A natural valve I can have, so that will be like a pig valve or a cow valve. However, they only last for about 10 to 12 years, so hence the reason why we're trying to hold off the open heart surgery for as long as possible. And also, I know that once that open heart surgery happens, I will need to take a good 6 to 8 months off running, and that makes me quite sad. I don't want to give up my running, but I don't want to die either. So, fine line. It's I think anyone who has heart issues, like obviously mine's genetic. My dad also has a genetic heart issue. He's actually missing his pulmonary valve. Didn't know about that until he was 62. So I guess my main thing is always listen to your cardiologist. But if you don't feel that something is right and you want to continue on exercising, please get a second opinion. Don't always listen to one cardiologist's opinion. They may be very good at what they do, but they're not you. So always go by your gut instinct and listen to you, I guess, is the best option I've got there. But any heart issues, if you've got any shortness of breath, any heart palpitations, heart rate issues, anything like that, highly recommend just going to go to a cardiologist, get an echocardiogram done, and just ensure that if you do have a heart issue, you want to be running for the longevity of your life, not a short time. You don't want to be wearing out that heart more than you need. No, you don't get a certain amount of heartbeats per lifetime, like some people like to think. So you can run as much as you need to. It's certainly not going to affect you there. But I'm a firm believer in staying positive and staying active and moving. I do try to eat and drink fairly well. Yes, I like a good beer after a marathon, as everyone here knows, or a wine, but I'm usually pretty good with most things.
I think everyone who listens, Tara, would acknowledge that you're an incredibly positive person that's faced these challenges in such a heartwarming, heartfelt sort of a way.
Oh,
Tony,
you're
You're making my heart bleed.
Yeah.
Tara, I think it's great that you've been able to share your medical journey with us. I know it's not easy to do that. I guess just one final question I've got is, and it's probably you've probably picked up there, but if our listeners are having any concerns or are feeling that they may have a heart issue, I guess the best thing for them to do is go and talk to their GPs rather than do a Google search and get some professional advice. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't do Dr. Google. Dr. Google will, even if you Google the symptoms of what you have, or what you actually have wrong with you, it gives you a rather dire outcome sometimes. So I try not to look too much into Dr. Google. I'm lucky that I do actually have a fair good knowledge of the human working body, biology side of things for the animal world that I work in. So I'm very lucky that I actually understand all of that. But yeah, if you yourself have got any concerns at all, do not hesitate to go and see your doctor. And if you feel that they dismiss you, ask for a second opinion. Do not leave it until it's too late. There is too many people. Sometimes you don't even show signs with heart concerns. I'm one of the very lucky people that actually have shown signs before it became an issue, but there are people out there that don't show signs. So if you're showing any signs at all and you feel that you've got a heart concern, please talk to your GP and get a referral through to a cardiologist or get an echocardiogram done. Yep.
100%. All right, thanks for that, Tara. We're going to wrap it up there. But I guess the moral of the story, or what we've heard from Tara tonight, is that having a heart concern or a heart issue doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of your running journey. You can run marathons. You can continue to chase your dreams and move forward, and achieve goals in your life. It's not the end of the world. And I think that's the thing you'd like to pass on there as well, Tara, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't let one thing that happens in your life determine what's going to happen in the future. One day at a time. Don't worry about the future too much. Just look at what's happening now. And that's what it was like for us going through the first lot of surgery just before Chicago and New York. We were like, okay, am I going to get to Chicago? Am I going to get to New York? Let's not worry about that now. Let's worry about getting better now. So after my pacemaker surgery, that was the 1st of May, we're looking at Gold Coast. I still went into Gold Coast Marathon weekend, not knowing if I was going to be doing the 5, 10, half, or the 4, or any of the races. I just played it by ear, and yep, one day at a time. That's all I've got to say. Don't look at it as a bad thing. Look at it as a lifetime or a learning journey.
Yep. All righty. Well, thank you, Tara. As I said, it's not easy sharing that. So thanks again. Now, as I'm the host this week, it's that time of the week where we do the tip, and I'm going to get the tip from Lucia. So, Lucia, what is your tip of the week?
Now, I know everyone looks forward to when I give the tip. Let's face it, guys, because mine do get a bit more like a bit more movement, let's say. But on a serious note, this one's a bit personal for me. Like, what do you do when your training isn't going to plan? Do you make up the runs? What do you do? So this is something in which I wanted to share with our listeners, because I dare say that it happens to everyone. You can have a week or two out of training if you've been sick, or sometimes life just may get the better of you. So don't try to make up every missed run. So for instance, if you've missed 5 runs, don't try and cram them in because that can cause overtraining. It can cause injury from overtraining and potentially burnout as well. So kind of evaluate the importance of the missed session and make sure you prioritize the long runs to build your endurance. Distance beats pace every single time. So even if you've missed 2 weeks and you still want to get a long run, like for instance, I want to do this coming weekend, I'm not focusing on the pace. I'm just going to focus on the distance because time on feet is more valuable than everything else. So definitely prioritize the long runs. Include at least one additional good workout each week, whether that be threshold or interval sessions, and let go of the low priorities run. So for instance, if you were just going to do like a 3K run or something like that, just let it go. Give your body the chance to recover from the longest sessions and from the hardest sessions as well. And if you're feeling undertrained, scale back the intensity or the volume. So shorten a run sometimes if you have to, instead of skipping it, and replace a missed workout, even with a cross-training session like spin or strength, something like that. And if you're missing a run because of fatigue, check your body out. Is everything all right? Go through the checklist from head to toe and just make sure that everything is aligned. And probably a good one, which sometimes I know I'm my own worst enemy, adjust your expectations. So for instance, if you're going for a PB in a race that's upcoming, just shift your focus from getting a PB to just finishing the race. And if at all possible, actually consider pushing back that race and think, do you know what? I know I can't give them all. I'll try it again next year or something. And this one, I think Tim may like. Not necessarily a pre-week as well, but consider doing a reverse taper. So starting off slow and then gradually reintroduce volume and intensity as well. So, but I think also importantly, don't double your week. Like as I said earlier, if you were meant to do 2 runs one week, 2 runs another week, don't do 4 runs in 1 week because that's just going to cause burnout. So ultimately, it's about adjusting your plan, and that's okay. And that's my tip for you.
Thanks, Lucia. A reverse taper. That sounds like just weeks 1, 2, and 3 of a training block.
No comment.
All right. So we are only a heartbeat away from ending the episode. But before we do that, Tony, what is on next week's show?
Before I go into next week's show, I just want to thank Lucia for her mini episode there on the Lucia's tip. So I started taking notes because, as you know, we do tips on Tuesday. And once it got down to about 8 or 9 tips, I'm just thinking, how am I going to fit all that onto an Instagram post? So Vic Miles reached out during the week and on our Spotify channel and said she'd gone back onto an Out and Back episode because she enjoyed getting the tips on a Wednesday. So I think, Luch, I might have to just take all of what you just said and put it out as an Out and Back episode, and even then it might be too long. So, but great tips, don't get me wrong. I'm just, yeah. Anyway, so next week, and thanks, Tim, for, next week we're going back and having one of the episodes that our listeners love and that we actually really enjoy too. We're going to go take a visit to ChatGPT and ask it to list all the funny questions that runners can ask. Yes, and we're going to answer those questions, and we'll do it with a little bit of seriousness, but we'll also do it with a lot of humor. So questions that may be answered. If I run a marathon, can I eat an entire pizza afterwards?
I think the question is, can you eat an entire pizza before?
any day of the week, Is 12 pairs of running shoes too many? I've got 16 over on my, they can never be. Why are my toenails doing that? Can I wear my race medal to the shops? Why do I suddenly need to poop at kilometre 3 every time? You can tell Tim writes these. So if I put my Garmin, I love this one, Tim. This is actually really quite funny. If I put my Garmin in the washing machine, will it count as a swim? Right. So that's a prelude to some of the questions that we're going to answer in all seriousness and a lot of humor. So we'll answer the funny questions that runners ask at Chat GTP, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun along the way. As we keep saying, we're the only podcast with 4 6-star world major medalists, and we can't wait to have a bit of a laugh with you all next week. Back to you, Tim.
Thanks, Tony. They are actually questions that I got off ChatGPT too, by the way. They're not my questions. So I asked it to give me a couple of questions that I could put into a upcoming episode. Anyway, thanks for that. It's the end of another show. So it's been a quick one today. We've enjoyed doing it. Thank you very much, Tara, for sharing your journey to date, and hopefully it's inspired other people out there to go and get some checks done on their heart. So thank you very much, my sweetheart. I wish you all a very good week ahead, all of you guys, my marathon mates, and I can't wait to catch up with you all next week to do it all over again. For any of our listeners, we love to hear feedback from you. So please let us know what you're thinking. Message us on Instagram, Facebook, or email, which you can email at us at happyrunning@flyingrunner.com. We always love to get feedback, good, bad, or ugly. You can watch this episode on Spotify and YouTube, or listen to us on Apple, Amazon, and all major platforms, particularly the one you're listening to right now. Because if you're listening to me, you're listening to it on our podcast platform. Remember, every step counts. Keep running, and we'll see you next time on the Flying Runner podcast. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.
Happy running.